we forget that like the creative act itself is the important thing. It's not necessarily the validation of landing a six-figure book deal or getting a million views on TikTok or whatever it is. If you invest your time trying to tell your story, fiction, memoir, nonfiction, whatever, however that shows up, that is in itself so important and so valuable. Like you're using your brain in this completely different way. And not many people even attempt it.
Welcome to the Coast Podcast. I'm Emily, a virtual assistant agency owner who left Amazon in 2019 to build my dream.
And I'm Whitney, a freelance writer and communications consultant who never felt at home in a cube farm.
We wanted to learn from people who paved their own ways like we did. So we created this podcast to talk to others who are brave enough to pick a different path. Creatives, entrepreneurs, people doing their careers and their lives their way.
Join us as we make new friends, get inspired, and show you beautiful paths less traveled.
Not every road leads to the coast, but the ones that do come with a great view.
Welcome back to the coast. My name is Whitney Popa, and I own a boutique copywriting agency in Edmonds, Washington, as well as a indie publishing house that has published its first book. So I'm really excited for today's interview. I'm like so off my game. We've been off a few weeks.
You are so excited about it. You should be, because Rachel's amazing. But I'm Emily Given. I own a virtual assistant agency in Lynwood, Washington. And today we have the pleasure of talking to Rachel Moss, who just became Rachel Moss, right?
Yes, yeah, in
Yay!
October of last year.
Yay, she just got married.
Yep.
So Rachel is an award-winning writer, ghostwriter, and editor. After finishing her Ph.D. in English during the pandemic, she decided to transition out of academia and began freelancing full-time. Since then, she has helped clients all over the world tell their stories their way through her ghostwriting, editing, and writing coaching services. Her clients are all innovators in their fields, including the first Black woman to own a legal cannabis business in New York, a former CIA director, influencers, CEOs, and many more. You can follow her on Instagram at Rach Writes, or subscribe to her newsletter about ghostwriting and creativity, Ghostwriter Life and we will link the link. So I first met Rachel.
Ghostwriter, yeah, Ghostwriter Life Substack.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm subscribing now.
Oh, thank you.
So I first met Rachel on Fiverr or Upwork?
Yes.
Either.
Fiverr. Yeah.
Fiverr. And if you know me, which some of you do, some of you don't, you know that I am writing a memoir. It's been a long journey, but I just needed somewhere to start. So I'm the kind of person that likes to work backwards. So I need to start. So I figured, hey, I need a proposal. So I looked on Fiverr to help someone write me a proposal. There are a lot of options out there. You immediately caught my eye because I just really liked your profile and the way you spoke to me on it, and contacted you, and literally you wrote me the most beautiful proposal ever.
Aww.
And before this book was just an idea, and you really helped me create a structure for it, which was like so insanely powerful. And now I have like specific chapters to work on, and I know what I'm writing, and I can't with any truth tell you that I'm almost done with it, but you know, you've given me the structure that I needed. So Rachel, sorry, that was a really long rambly intro, but thank you so much for being here. You are like a very important person in my life. So
Oh, that means so much to me. And honestly, it was an honor to work on that project with you and to hear your story and kind of like get it one step closer to being a real book. That's really the best part of my job, honestly.
And I have to say that I never even mentioned this in our proposal, like in our client call, and you compared me to What My Bones Know, and that is like, that book changed my life, and I like cried about that. And also Stephanie Fu saw me on Instagram like last week, and she shouted me out, yes, because I like held her book. I held the book in a photo shoot, and I tagged her, and she was like, wow, that's so cool. And I'm like,
Oh,
ah. Anyway,
oh my
Stephanie
gosh.
Fu, if you're listening, I freaking love you.
DM
Um,
her the link after this. Also, I need a trauma bond with Rachel about Fiverr. I heard Fiverr and I was like,
Oh
because
gosh.
I was on Fiverr and I don't know if they've changed, but as a person who hosts gigs on there or whatever they call us, like the service providers on Fiverr, I'm traumatized. I had to get off because the
Oh,
way that Fiverr works is anywhere in the world, and maybe I had my settings wrong, to be fair, but I don't think so. Because I was on Reddit researching this after multiple traumas, where they were like, people would buy your gig, and then and if they live in a completely different time zone, so I would have most of my gigs purchased in the middle of the night, and I would wake up to
mm.
the timer have already elapsed 6 hours
Oh
into their
gosh.
like 24 because they could pay more to, and maybe yours were like, I don't know, less time bound, but I think you had to set that up. And anyway, people would expedite for 24-hour things from me, and then my whole day would be thrown off because of a timer that started in Berlin that I didn't even know about, and I couldn't adjust it where, let's say, Peerspace, Airbnb, where you can change the settings where it's, I have to accept this. No,
Yeah.
they buy it, it starts. So I hope you didn't buy Rachel's gig. I don't know where you're living right now in the middle of the night. It seems like it was a
I do.
positive
No, it was,
relationship.
I do get like some middle of the night orders, but because of like how my like I have a standard like 12-day deadline, like clients can like rush order things, but they typically like message me if they want to rush order. So I'm like in communication. Recently, I did set up something where clients can like do consultations with me, like short video calls. And
Cool.
that was kind of traumatizing because I didn't realize that clients could book same day video calls. And I was like, oh man, like
Yeah, no,
that's
thank
not,
you.
yeah,
no
I
same
can't
day
because
meetings ever. No.
yeah, I just need like at least 24 hours notice for, you know, a meeting just to be prepared and, make sure my hair is brushed or something. So,
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I also love to see somebody thriving on Fiverr and that you guys connected there because I did have a lot of cool experiences, but overall, I also had a public facing calendar like you still have on your website, Emily, where people could book time with me.
yeah.
Mm.
And so many people were in control of my time that, and I didn't realize I was doing that, that I woke up one morning literally just with the realization of, oh, this is what's making you so stressed out every night and
Mhm.
every morning. So then I turned those things off and changed my life.
Yeah, yeah. I think that Fiverr, it's connected me with, it has allowed me to connect with so many amazing people and people like Emily, like entrepreneurs, like people with just like incredible stories that I don't know that I would have connected with elsewhere.
Right.
But it's not like a system that doesn't have its own flaws. And so I try to like, you know, I think it's like when you're running a small business, you try to think of like pillars that you have, and Fiverr is just one of those things.
Totally.
Totally.
So,
Rachel, talk to us about what you did. Okay, so you graduated with your PhD during the pandemic. What did you do before that? What did you do career-wise?
so I went from my undergrad into my PhD program. I took a year off in between and I actually worked at a mall. And that was like just out of left field. I needed, because I was really, the school that I went to for undergrad was very hardcore academic school. And my brain was just cooked when I got out of there.
Mhm. What did you do at the
And
mall?
I worked at J. Crew and I was a sales
Nice.
associate. So, yeah, I was on the floor selling button downs and
Nice.
blazers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it was what my brain needed at that point. And then I applied to grad school. I went to Ohio State and you don't pay for graduate school there for my program. They actually paid me to teach. And so I just kind of went into academia. I thought I was going to be a professor, honestly. So, but I was mostly there like to write. I was like, oh, like this is a nice way. Yeah, I'm teaching and I'm researching, but I'm really getting all this time to write and really hone my craft. So,
Yeah. What was your
yeah.
emphasis?
So my doctorate is in English and I specialize in American literature, specifically like visual literature. So a lot of film, comics, like kind of self-published things by women and girls, zines, that sort of stuff. So I really, yeah, like I
She said
love,
zines. Oh my
yes.
God. And
Nobody knows that language. That's what I was calling my brief booklet when I was
Oh yeah.
conceptualizing it because it felt like it's like a fancy zine.
Yes, yeah. I grew up making zines and you can kind of see on my back wall, like this shelf is all like zines and
Yeah.
comics and stuff. So I'm like a huge collector and yeah, that's like what I ended up studying and a lot of like women's narratives, women's memoirs, that sort of thing. So Emily and I like really clicked when we when we met
okay,
on Fiverr.
like maybe you do. I do want you to ghostwrite my memoir. I don't know. It's so okay. Oh
You
my God,
might have
there's
to check in with your definition of writing it yourself. Because even here, like reading in that book, that 3 days, you're basically writing it yourself without writing it. You're
just
telling your
sitting and
story.
telling. Yeah, right.
But I don't know if it depends on your goal, you know. Are you wanting to get it out into the world and sounding like you, Rachel's the perfect person to do it in a time frame that actually might be sooner than later?
And then Whitney's gonna publish it at her publishing house. Maybe
Oh, I love that. You already have you're like, this is my publisher.
she does. I mean,
Yeah.
where
She
she
sent me the
wants.
proposal and I was like, this is good. I had two things that I wanted. Do you remember what I said, what I asked?
Nope.
I think I wanted a little bit more about how her trauma, like a chapter about her trauma and her business.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And not to make it like boring, not that your business is boring, but I wanted a little bit more of that connection of where did you like from here to here, and how do you think that informs things? Just because I know her so well through her business that I thought it might be
Yeah.
nice to touch on. And I think that's probably something she didn't talk to you about in your conversation. It's not like a Rachel thing. It's a Emily probably didn't think it's important. And I
Right.
think
And
it's
like
important.
definitely, I think that's like part of the interest in your story in particular, Emily, is like how do you get from here to where you are now?
Yeah.
Like that's what, yeah, drew me in as, the person writing the proposal. I was like, oh, I'm fascinated endlessly.
This is
So,
making me, it's so funny because it's making me really get excited about it. Because it's something you put off and put off and put off. And I'm looking at my stack of, so people don't really know this, but I requested all my CPS records from the state. So from when I was a kid, I literally printed them all out and they're in a box right there, like with
yeah,
highlighters. And I'm just like fervently highlighting. And then I have to take a break for, a month because I feel like shit. I'm like, why do I feel so sad? And I'm like, oh yeah, duh. But
yeah,
it's a process and like having, you know, maybe having someone else write it for me that's not experiencing that pain is like good thing.
Or, the partnership of Rachel getting it started and you beefing it where you need to and adding those anecdotes, or sitting down with her again to go through it during the editing process or development so that she can add those personal things in. I've decided that maybe I would be open to ghostwriting if it's a person like Rachel because she really does embody you. And even with self-publishing and all those things, you have to redefine your relationships. Like, why do I believe that the only path to this being great is through a traditional publisher? Uh, what
mm,
is that still true? Those kind of coaching
yeah,
questions that you might need to walk yourself through of what is my ultimate goal here? Will I be able to achieve it by doing it myself? Because it is really emotional for you to sit down and write it, and you have a lot of resistance.
I do. I have a lot of resistance. Rachel, can you tell a lot of our audience, I guarantee you, a lot of our audience has a book in them, right? Wants to
yeah.
come write a book. Can you tell us, just from a broad perspective, what is the process of writing a book? I know that's
Oh
such a
gosh.
loaded question, but like where do you
Yeah.
start?
I mean, like every single book that I've written is so different. I've written my own books. My first book is coming out in October this year.
Yay.
I'm working on my second book now. So, and I've written a dissertation. All three of those processes were very, very different, just like from my own personal experience. But I think like the concept of a book is so overwhelming to people. And it was overwhelming to me when I started to write my first book, which was my dissertation. With a lot of my clients, I really tell them to think about how they can set up a routine for themselves that actually fits with their life. Because a lot of the times I think like when it comes to writing, we think that, okay, well, I have to be really disciplined and I've got to get up at 5 a.m. every morning. And if I don't write 1,000 words a day, it's just, I'm not really working at it and I'm not writing a book. But so many people who have books in them, their primary job is not being a writer. So you really have to think about like how do you make the writing fit into your life as it is now? And usually it's not like 1,000 words a day. It's 300 to 500 words every other day or 3 days a week, and kind of like with my clients, with myself, I start honestly like with baby steps. I don't look at it as this is going to be a 100,000 word manuscript. I'm like, okay, what can I do today that fits in my life and makes sense? I had to go get groceries. I got to ghostwrite this other thing. I got to work out. I got to clean. Like, where does the writing fit in that makes sense and does not kill me, you know?
And being kind to yourself too. That's been part of my process. And what's been interesting about the zine booklet that I created, I felt like it was channeled through me. So it wasn't like a planned thing. I had been working on a novel for the past 10 years. And like you said,
Yeah.
it feels so big. And I would say it's 2/3 of the way done. I've edited it. There's a few places I need to beef up and then send it to a developmental editor. So if you do something like that, I would love
I
to
do.
talk
Yeah.
because I need somebody on the outside to look at it and help me because it's basically wish fulfillment of how a certain part of my life I wanted to go and it didn't. So that's been
Yeah.
it's been an emotional process for me too, even though it's fiction. And then I got out of the mode of writing in it every day, and then I would beat myself up about it. So then I decided to like, how do I want to have a relationship with this book right now? And I've read, spiritually things too, where it's the characters have to trust you and you have to be at a right place for it as well. So then I took it and edited it that first round to get to a place of, okay, where do I need to finish this? And like you said,
Yeah.
the process is so different for every person. And the zine came in to show me, here's your first step. Here's you getting started. Here's you practicing at being an author and learning to identify as an author because my whole life I was trained out of my art to do something that was practical and made money, just like a lot of
Yeah.
millennials. So I never
Yeah.
believed it could be true for me. And then doing this first thing and creating the house around it so that I could publish other people too and make it more like service oriented felt like these are the steps that I can handle. So to your point, it's, every step looks so different for each person. Some people need outlines to work off of. Some people are more intuitive
Yeah.
and just free flowing. Some people edit as they write, even if, we're not supposed to. So we think there's a
Right.
lot of rules, but breaking it up to make it manageable really helps people. And it's funny to me what was manageable to me is something that I never expected would be the way that this would go. I was always like, I'm going to have a novel and it's going to be published by HarperCollins or, Sasquatch, whatever. That's
Penguin,
not,
Random House.
yeah, that's not how it's
Yeah.
going. And I prefer it that way for sure. But I think we all need to be open to what it could look like for us and keep checking in with ourselves as well, which you probably have to do because your brain's moving in so many different directions at all times.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just like the world of tr writing is so expansive now, especially with there's so many platforms online like Substack, Medium, where you can get your words in front of a lot of people. Like I checked my Substack stats the other day and I was like, wow, like 1,500 people have looked at my, articles. Like that's, if that amount of people were in a room, that would be crazy. So it's there, there's just so many different ways to like approach writing and get your words out there, and all of them are equally valid. You don't need to go the traditional publishing route to put your story into the world and to find like your audience and your readers.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you, like, I'm having a moment. Like
Oh,
this is the most lit up and excited I've been about anything in a very long time. So like
oh, that
I'm
makes me so happy.
so thankful that you're here with us because I think both Whitney and I very much resonate with you as a guest, and we were like, "Ugh, this is really great." Like, thank you
Oh,
for being here. And
of
I've been meaning
course.
to connect with you before. Life is so busy, but I'm so thankful you're here, and like it's it's really cool when you meet somebody who gives you the wind behind your purpose. Do you know what I mean? It's I know that I'm meant to write this book, and that I met you is not a coincidence, right? It's pretty cool. So, anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think when it comes to creativity, like you need that support group of other creatives. Like, my husband is a painter. We create like a very creative space in our home,
Mm.
like at all times, just so that we can kind of keep going. Because like creativity is very isolating in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, but you can work with other people and share it. And that's all of my clients, whether I'm like ghostwriting for them, writing coaching, editing, I want them to feel like they have the momentum to get where they want to go with their creative projects.
And for it to feel safe too. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I believe that I know that I have a witch wound around writing, that I was told by multiple intuitives that I was either my throat was slit or I was burned at the stake for using
Mm,
my words for other women. And I have spent a lot of time being frustrated of why is this so hard for you to get over yourself and share your work? And that's why I think the little thing needed to happen for me first so I could get a little bit braver, and know that I'm probably not going to get murdered this time for
yeah.
sharing and leading people, especially when it's about grief. Who's going to murder me for talking about grief? But
Mm,
you never know. And even I don't know how it was for you, but I have an English degree as well. So in like my classes, I was like, I don't want to share. I don't want to be in the group and sharing my stuff because if you're not my audience, if I don't care about your opinion, there's only certain people that I would feel very safe with because it's such a vulnerable thing. Even with my clients
yeah.
writing a website for a business, I'm like, but it's my soul that I'm
Yeah.
sharing. And it takes
Yeah.
so much out of me energetically that I've had to get really
That's
practiced at
that's why I
sharing.
don't that's why I don't do it. It's so much energetically, and I know that what I have to say is good and valid and like helpful and will help a lot of people, but it's especially my story. It's I mean,
Yeah.
all of our stories are so vulnerable, and in some ways you're like outing other people, and
Mm.
r- it's complex.
Yeah. Yeah. It always is. It's the like risk of representation, like the risk of showing up as who you actually are. And writing, there's nothing really in between you and your audience except for the words. So yeah, it's the most vulnerable to me,
How do you
for
manage
sure.
that with yourself and your clients, like for your work and then also like in coaching your clients?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that for me, like I'm so passionate about creativity and helping my clients unlock creativity for themselves that like it energizes me to help them problem solve their practice. But then in terms of like when I'm writing for other clients or working on a book proposal or anything like that, I do put some of myself into that work. Like I have a really deep empathy for other people, and I just feel very privileged when people trust me with their stories, and I want to do it justice, and I try to tap into the emotionality of their story and how I relate to it and put that into the work. But, there are points where things do get draining, and it's, you're just writing. I'm writing so much that it's like,
Mm-hmm.
how is this happening? We just moved recently out into the woods. Like I literally live in a nature preserve now. So I've been going into the woods a lot and like hiking and just taking time away from like screens, my phone, to just kind of like recharge and get back in touch with like my creativity, that sort of thing. So it's pretty basic, but I'm like, yeah, being in nature really does help, or having
Yeah.
that break time really does help.
So important.
For
I
sure.
just came from a walk. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
raining. I'm still walking on the beach. Let's go.
I love walking in the rain. I kind of draw the line at thunderstorms, but even then I'm kind of like, oh, well, I have the trees. Like, it's all good.
Where do you live, Rachel? Ohio.
We lived in Columbus, Ohio, like central Ohio, and we
Okay.
recently moved out to, it's just an hour outside of Columbus. It's this town called Yellow Springs, which is this little hippie art town. There is a college here called Antioch College that has always been kind of like social justice oriented. Coretta Scott King went there.
Cool.
Dave Chappelle lives here. So
Wow.
it's kind of
Random.
Okay.
like this kind of like hidden gem of Ohio that not many people know about, but it's just this beautiful place and is great for artists.
Does that mean that you would potentially fly Emily? Well, Emily would fly out to be at your house and purge her soul, or do you ghostwrite by going to people like that guy did?
So I haven't traveled to a client yet, but I would totally travel, especially, you know, given the scope of Emily's project, I would probably travel to you to like spend time and,
Weekend retreat. Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, if you were like, oh, I need to get away and come out to Yellow Springs, I'm like, you definitely should. So yeah, I
We
joke
should
with my
plan
husband
that.
all the time. I would love that, honestly. Like my husband is a painter. He has a lot of painting students, and I'm like, we're really just running like an art farm out here, aren't we? Like we
Yes.
don't
That's
have goats
so
and cows.
cool,
We have,
though.
yeah, we have like paintings, and like our neighbor's a sculptor. So, any kind of art
How
you'd
cool.
want to do,
I want
we can set
a
it up.
I want a writer's retreat out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I would love to. I never thought of running a writer's retreat, but that is like an awesome idea for sure.
Oh, you guys have to be besties now. I love it.
I know, my
Yes.
heart is so happy because
I know.
for
Oh,
me, it's been this whole thing where I've been very protective of my art and I know that it's good and to share it. I just never wanted feedback. I'm only like, only positive feedback accepted here.
yeah.
So it's been this whole learning how to be open. And honestly, part of what helped me with that was going viral on TikTok several times.
Oh,
And people just being
interesting.
so mean, like you just realize people on the internet, they're not your people. So who cares if they say you're ugly or that your face looks weird when you're pointing at words like way back. I mean, I was going viral on TikTok like way back and then I took a break and now I'm back there, like you said, with Fiverr to spread more of my message and just help people and see what
Yeah.
resonates. But I don't really care anymore what people think or what they say. And I had to get there before I could share my work with the world. And even my grandma, she read my book and was like, the ending wasn't wrapped in a bow for me. I was like,
And you're
okay.
like, oh,
I
whoops.
like, no, I love books that I just read a book that the end, I was like, WTF? Like what? And I love that. I love weird books like that.
Yeah. Well, and also
Yes.
it's not wrapped in a bow. It's really like up to you and how you take it. But I
Right.
think my grandma always wants a happy ending in the way that she defines it. And so I had to have that thick skin. And my grandma's it's not like I wasn't expecting my grandma to have something spicy to say because she just always
Yeah.
does. But I had to be in a place where I was like, I don't give a shit what anybody says or doesn't say, or whether they support it or anything. And it takes a certain kind of personality to take it on the chin or not care. And
Yeah.
it's a part of that whole process too, of like you got this thing out, now you have to share it, and then you also aren't in control of it anymore. If you've read Rick Rubin's book, which is incredible, he talks a lot about that. Like you're not in once it is released from you, you do not control this art, how it's received, what it does in the world. And that's kind
Yeah.
of freeing.
Yeah. I mean, you had to be like a little delusional, I think, to do any kind of creative work to where it's,
Yeah.
yeah, I have the vision and I know what this is going to be, and it's going to meet and find the person or the people that it needs to find. I'm not
Yep.
too concerned about everyone else's feedback, but
Yeah.
I could never show my grandma anything that I write. So kudos to you. Like,
That's funny.
I did not give it to her. My mom did.
That's funny.
oh, wow.
But it's not, yeah, I mean, it's not something that would this novel, there are sex scenes in it. So maybe my grandma likes that. She likes historical fiction. I know there are some sex scenes.
My
But
That's
grandma
awesome.
definitely read some spicy books. I was like, oh, grandma. Yeah.
I mean, my grandma has tons of Danielle Steele.
Danielle Steele, right? Yeah. That's what they all they all flock to.
She likes to pretend she's a prude, but she has 4 kids.
Yeah, we know, Grandma. We know what you're doing.
The the beautiful thing about the differences in all the books though, like you walk into a bookstore and you realize like all of these people wrote books. Why can't I?
Yeah.
And the answer
Yeah.
is you can. Like you
Yep.
definitely can.
And
Um,
yeah, there's been some really cool advice that I've heard recently too. Jamie Ford, who wrote The Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet, he gave a keynote at a conference that I went to last year because he used to live in Seattle. He lives in Montana now. And he was talking about one of the ways to get over yourself is go to a garage sale and buy all their small, like airport size novels that are like so cheesy and bad and remind yourself all of these people got their books published, you can too.
Yeah.
And they are just, he said, buy them for a couple for 50 cents to show yourself these are so bad and I can do it. And there's all sorts of evidence around you all the time. We all think it's so like unattainable. And you go to Barnes and Noble and it's like bazillions around you. So I think especially for women too, we have a lot of imposterness around
Oh, yeah.
sharing our voices.
Yeah. I think too, like, we forget that like the creative act itself is the important thing. It's not necessarily the validation of landing a six-figure book deal or, you know, getting a million views on TikTok or whatever it is. There's so much that can grab our attention these days. We
Yep.
have Netflix shows to watch, we've got TikToks to scroll. If you invest your time trying to tell your story, fiction, memoir, nonfiction, however that shows up, that is in itself so important and so valuable. Like you're using your brain in this completely different way. And not many people even attempt it. So
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
something that I try to remind myself.
there's some
Not many
wild
people even
stats.
attempt it. That's so true because they're
If
too
Yeah.
afraid.
Yeah, you can look it up.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to find some wild stats around that. The amount of people who want to write a book, the ones who start it, the ones who finish it, it just keeps plummeting.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw something like very scary about literacy rates the other day. I was like, oh no, the kids got to read. Like,
Oh no.
yeah. So I try to remind myself and my clients, I'm like, no, you doing this and dedicating time to it, that is the goal. Like
Yeah.
everything else that's just extra.
Yep. I had to journal on that a lot when I was like thinking, to your point, Emily, people would be mad at me or they would associate themselves with a character and then be mad. First of all, do I care? If I don't care how they feel about what I wrote that is not about them.
Yeah.
And then also just getting out of my own way to know that getting this out of my body is what I need to do. And wherever it
Yeah.
goes after that is not up to me. And that's like Rick, his book helped me a ton with that because it's, I don't need the accolades. I need to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah.
get it out and also help people with what you're saying. It's like you take the heaviness from you and then you make it light and it touches other people that need to hear it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 100%.
And calibrating yourself for both of those things is tough. It's almost like once it's out in that process of finalizing it, you can get in that mode of, okay, I'm ready to be its ambassador. Because when you were saying delusional, I just sent out a newsletter the other day about Kanye. I
I
watched
saw that.
his 3-part documentary series on Netflix
Oh
talk about
gosh.
delusional in the, especially in the beginning, in the best sense of him popping out his retainer at Rockefeller to rap for them. And I was like, this is what we all need to be in the energy of. You don't have to be full Kanye, but to have a little bit of Kanye and be in that people are paying me to write beats, but I am a rapper and a
Yeah.
producer. So let me spit for you some of what he even said. God spoke it, I just croak it. What is
Yeah.
channeled through him of his message to the world and being brave enough to represent that and knowing too, like for women, we have to make that switch of it's not about me, it's about the service that I'm providing to the world by
Mm-hmm.
this message that is just mine to give and I am the channel versus everyone look at me. It's more of I'm just speaking on behalf of this other energy or this thing that is universal that people need to
Yeah.
know more about. Like your experience, Emily. Yes, it's you, but it's meant to serve people who can relate in any kind of way, you know?
How many female survivors of child abuse that are entrepreneurs are out there? I'm sure a ton. A
Yeah.
ton. And
Millions.
how many of them feel like unworthy and unlovable and they're having trouble so many. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like that vulnerability, like you telling your story. I mean, you can probably think of like the books or the stories that keep you going, like that's how we do what we do. So you adding your voice to that, it's going to keep someone else going.
Yeah, and when people say things like that, I'm like I gotta get this out. I gotta get it.
Yeah.
When we were talking to Richard on our friend Richard Taylor Jr. I said that really slow, but he was like, you know, someone's falling off a cliff right now and they're not going to hold on forever. You got to get that book out. And I'm like, damn, that's like
Wow.
really
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay.
I think
Yeah, that,
about this the book Big Magic, which I think we mentioned earlier, the
I
Elizabeth
did.
mhm.
Gilbert
Yep.
book.
Yep.
Yeah, I there's a passage in that book where she talks about this there's this economy of ideas in the creative space, and like when you start tapping into an idea like for a novel, for a nonfiction book, memoir is a little different, I think, but if you don't tell that story, like someone's going to kind of pluck it out of the
Yes.
creative ether,
Yes.
and I've seen it happen. Like I've seen, like people, like I've had an idea and then I'm like, wait, hold on, I'm watching a show, I'm like, that was my idea. you
Isn't that
know
wild? And I think
it's
it's so
crazy.
cool. Like her specific
Yeah.
example was like a very like specific, like in the Amazon something, and like her
Yes.
friend wrote the same book. That was so crazy.
Yeah, I think it was Anne Patchett ended up writing the book that she had thought of. And I
Yeah.
was like, I've seen it before. And I always remind myself, if I'm really trying to get myself motivated and get my butt to work, I'm like, okay, hey, this idea isn't gonna stick around you that long forever. So get after it.
I
It's
love
so
that
true.
concept.
I
Yeah,
need
that's
to I
cool.
Yeah.
need to reread and reread Big Magic all the time. That was a good one.
It's awesome. Yeah, I love that book.
So, a really, really weird question you probably can't answer. Give me a top five favorite, or like one of your top five favorite books.
Oh
Okay,
gosh.
fiction and nonfiction.
That's
Okay. Oh man, I have to look at my bookshelf. Which is right over here. I'm like, there's so many. I would say for nonfiction, my favorite. Yeah, the book that I come back to the most is probably Joan Didion's White Album, like the essay specifically, because the way that she structured that essay, her voice, and how she just shows up to the page so unapologetically herself
Yeah.
and doesn't care if she comes off as likable or like she is just getting the job done and
Mhm.
putting the story out there. So I reread that essay at least once a year, if not more. And I have like, the big collection of Joan Didion's essays on my shelf, and she's always someone that I'm coming back to.
Her year of magical thinking changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an incredible, like everything that she writes is so special, I think. And then, man, fiction wise, I'm like, there's so much. I think, hmm, yeah, I go back and forth between Jennifer Egan's A Visit from the Goon Squad, which I don't know if either of you have read or know about, but it's this novel of these interlocking stories. And each subsequent chapter is that chapter features a character who was a minor character in the chapter before. So it's
Oh,
really interesting. It like has to do a lot with music. A lot of the characters work in the record business, but she's just she is someone who reminds me to have fun when I'm writing. She's like a Pulitzer Prize winner, but like her stuff is always fun and always funny to me.
I'm gonna get it on Libby.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, I think I'll stick with Jennifer Egan. There are like a couple others, but I'm like, Jennifer's great. Like she would be, I would take that to a desert island for sure.
I love that.
I
Yeah.
think it's so cool when people have that. My brain doesn't work that way of putting together such intricate storylines. It's like a quilt, kind of. And
Yeah.
I'm always
Yeah.
so impressed by that. I'm more like, keep it going with some flashbacks, but to be able to weave characters together like that, where then at the end you're like, oh, they all know each other this way, or, like
Right.
Love Actually, or all those
Yes.
types of things.
Yeah.
I think I'm so impressed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely, I love that you said quilt because one of my grandmothers is a quilter and she has quilts that are like super insured for like thousands of dollars. Like she's really a quilter. And I'm like, yeah, like that is kind of what draws me in with fiction is when it feels like this like organic kind of like quilt that's coming together. So
Hmm.
I love that.
Like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Emily, I feel really strongly that you should explore this more with Rachel of how you can, how you want to define your relationship to writing
No,
your own.
I do too. And every time I talk to Rachel, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. But I Googled how much does it cost for someone to ghostwrite your book, and it said up to $65,000. That's a lot of dollars. Is that true?
It yes. I mean, like for a full manuscript, it can get pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I work with people at all different price levels again, so
So
we can
like
talk.
we'll talk. And I don't know, there's just so much I don't know about publishing a book is because I've heard a lot like if you don't write a book to make money.
Hmm.
And that's
You
like
can and you can't. I think you don't, that shouldn't be your primary goal.
not at all, right? You got to help people. But like when you look at I don't know, Stephanie Fu, who wrote her memoir. I'm like, are you making money off this? I don't know, because you don't know what kind of publishing deal she had, but she's very famous now. And I started following her when she was not very famous because I just read the book and like, no one knew her. And now she's like, blown up. And, you know, yeah. So there's just so much that you don't know about the process. And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
The
it's
you have,
definitely like there's things that you're like, how do you even make money from this?
yeah,
But the cool thing is you can make money in any creative field right now because
yeah.
it's just the field is so wide open and there's so many
Hmm.
different ways to connect with like readers, audience, and to monetize that.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, let's continue talking because I think it's a story that needs to get out there, right?
hmm
yeah.
Rachel was saying, Emily, there's different funnels, right? So, or different pillars. So your intention is to become a speaker after that.
Yeah,
Those
it
are
is.
commanding at least 10K per speech, depending
Yeah,
on the
true.
thing. So
True.
it's not, the book is a conduit.
Commanding. That's sexy. I command $10,000
Yes.
per speech.
And
I'm into
only
that.
brown M&Ms. You got to have your writer ready to go, like your
I'm into it.
Yep.
Beyonce.
I'm into it.
You're like deep fried pickles and brown
Yum.
M&Ms.
I literally almost made that on Saturday. Deep fried
Uh,
pickles.
that just like popped into my head. I'm like, that sounds really good right now.
There's this, do you follow Britt Camille on TikTok? Like she's from Louisiana. She's just like a TikTok
Mhm.
chef, but she has the best deep fried pickle recipe. It's so good.
Oh, I'm gonna look her up because I'm like, okay, might have to make that or get my husband to make it for me.
That's
That's
where I'm at. I'm
amazing.
like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Roz, here's the
Roz,
recipe for
Roz is
you.
like the best. Shout out to Roz who cooks all the things. It's so great. Rachel, we have some rapid fire questions for you.
For sure.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Whitney, are you ready?
Yeah. I was like, are you reading
No,
them?
you
I'm
go,
reading
you go.
them. Okay. Well, we're gonna skip one about the best books
Yeah, because you
because you
already
already
told
answered
us.
that.
I did.
What are you proudest of in your business right now?
I'm proud of just how many people I've connected with and helped them tell their stories. Like it's hundreds at this point, and that is mind blowing to me. To have just 100 people who are out there doing their thing, and I helped be a part of that, that's incredible.
Yeah. I just, it makes me so happy for you because it's just a sentence that you said, but it's so impactful to their lives and the ripple effect of the people that they're touching too. And that
Yeah.
is really, really cool. So retweet underscore for you. What would your last meal be?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I love food, so this is so hard. Man, I don't know. Probably a Nashville hot chicken sandwich with
Mm.
some mac and cheese. And a lot of ranch. A lot of ranch. Maybe just like a whole bottle of ranch and
Have
a
you
Diet
gotten
Coke.
have you gotten targeted for the diamond crusted bottle of ranch yet on your ads?
I have not, but I feel like now I will be.
Yes.
Kind of had my ranch secret from my phone and just eating it.
It's amazing.
So yeah.
I love that. Nashville hot chicken. What's
hmm
the best business purchase you've made in the last 6 months under $100?
I think my walking pad, I got a really good deal on it. It came in just under 100. It was like an Amazon flash deal.
Yeah.
You're
And I
not the
just,
first person who said that, actually.
And I've only
oh,
seen them like
really?
300.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to watch out for the Amazon flash deals. I was like, I just got lucky one evening on Amazon. But yeah, so my walking pad, like I sitting at my desk so much, and I'm really like an active person. I like have to be moving part of the day. So the walking pad helps me to reel it in. And I'm like, yeah, we are going to get some movement in, even at my desk. So
That's so cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it's another sign of get your walking pad, Whitney. Angels, I hear you. What's lighting you up lately?
Oh, honestly, the like the woods, going to the woods, taking long hikes, just kind of like being out in nature and disconnecting from my phone. I look forward to that every single day. It's totally changed my life.
I agree. That's why our weekly beach walks on Tuesday mornings, when I first started them, like over 2 years ago, I had my phone in my pocket and I would just clutch it, like, who needs me? And then by the
Yeah.
second week, I was not worrying about my phone anymore. And now I'm like, this is a ritual and I have to do it because it makes me so much better for everybody to not skip
hmm
this time. And if I can't do it for whatever reason, then I need to find another way to be outside and replicating the same sort of thing. So I'm with you. And
Yeah.
grounding in the woods, touching the trees as you're walking by, it's so important.
It really looks like Middle Earth, like the woods that we live in. There's cliffs and gorges and a river, and I'm just like, what is this? Like
That's
this is
so cool.
crazy. Yeah.
This last question we stole from Rainn Wilson. He asked it on his podcast. What's one life experience everyone should have?
Oh, I think that everyone should try to travel to the country that most inspires them. Like for me, that country was Japan. I went there for the first time a couple years ago, and then my husband and I have been going back ever since.
Mm.
And there's just something about that experience that has totally shifted like my creative process and how I think about art, how I think about, life. So everyone, if there's something out there that's inspiring you, try to engage with it. Go there, even if it's in your hometown. It could be like a creek. I don't know.
That's
But
cool.
kind of, yeah, tap into it. Go there.
Like my magnolia that I'm so obsessed with.
Are you growing a
And
magnolia?
oh, I have a magnolia tree in my back, and every time I look at it, I'm like, God, I love it so much. But I've written
Yes,
about it before, so.
trees are the
Um,
best.
but are magnolia trees in Japan? No. Nope.
I'm
Maybe
not
not.
sure.
Red
Cherry,
maples?
cherry blossoms, that's what I was thinking of. They're different.
Yeah.
Rachel, we love you. Where can we find you?
Oh,
Where can all the people find you online? We'll link it in our show notes.
yeah. So my Instagram is Rach Writes, all one word. And then my Substack newsletter, Ghostwriter Life. I need to have a website up. The website thing is so arduous, but if I get a website up, I will send it to you guys and you can retroactively put people onto it. But people can also just email me. My email is rachel.miller.4442@gmail.com. So,
Look at you with the old school Gmail. I love it.
yes. Yeah. And it has my old name too, but I'm like, well, I don't know.
No,
We'll
that
see if
means
I
you're
switch it.
legit. You're so busy working on books. You're like, I don't need to have a website and an email
That's
attached to
really
it.
what it is.
What's
That's really what it is.
4442? Is that like
Oh,
significant?
no. So at OSU, it's such a big school that
Right.
everyone gets a dot number associated with their last name. And
Oh, that's
I
funny.
thought mine was kind of funny because it's, there's so many Millers.
Right.
And I would always be like, yeah, it's 3 4s 1 2. That's me. So
Our
but yeah.
we're big on like angel numbers and synchronicities and stuff, and the 444 is like the coast, our special number. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I need to learn more about those because I'm a big astrology girly, but I don't know much
Are
about
you?
angel numbers.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. We're we just recorded with an astrologer last week
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
on the
I have to listen to
podcast.
that.
Yeah.
Jazz is
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah. We're
Yeah,
big into it.
I love it. Pisces. Shout out to all the Pisces.
Yeah, no wonder you're artsy. My husband is a Pisces and he is very artsy, but also a tech guy. And
Okay, that's a cool combination.
he brings his art out through his food.
That's
He does.
awesome.
He do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Please let's
Thank you
be
for
in
having
touch. I'm
me.
gonna email you and we're gonna figure something out for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna push her or she's gonna have to actually give me that $600. So like,
Yeah.
Okay.
give it to Rachel
Say
or give
email
it to me.
Rachel or yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'll email you my phone number too, Emily, so you can
Okay.
kind of just maybe it'll be lower stakes than official email. You can just text me.
Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into this episode of The Coast. This is a really good one, so if you're listening, you're lucky to have heard this.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye, Coast audience.
Bye.